I remember when we were in Myanmar a few years back as a church mission trip, we had 100,000 tracts to get out, 10 days to do it, 15 people to get it across, and we were frustrated with just how ineffective we felt. We were just getting tracts around this tiny little section of an enormously unreached people with millions to be reached, and we were just praying that God would help us spread these tracts far and wide. There was some on the team who weren't big believers in tracts. Weird that they signed up for a mission trip where we would just handing out tracts in another language that we couldn't speak, but here we are. They just weren't so convinced that God would use a piece of paper when he could use a relationship, and God was working on their hearts. But we were praying that God would use these, that they would just go out like seed in the wind and be dropped where he would. And the pastor that we were with, whose personal phone number was in the bottom of these tracts, was getting, from that afternoon onwards, call after call after call. He had been I mentioned to him one day how terribly tired he looked, and I was making fun of him, and he said, I've been up all night answering phone calls from these tracts. I'm like, okay, my bad, sorry. But he said the spread. He said, the people who are calling me are not just, I said, are you going to meet up with them? They're calling. Can you organize it? Maybe we can meet up with them. And he goes, you can't meet up with these people. They're hundreds of kilometers north behind closed gates in war-torn, civilly destroyed, government-persecuted areas. Okay, we didn't go there. I'm fairly sure Philip wasn't reincarnated to teleport all over Myanmar for us. I'm not sure how these are going. He said that they've made their way up through the main arterial highway of the entire country on buses. The day before, one of the lazy members of our team had been taking wads of tracts and had learned the phrase in Burmese, take and share. Taking wads, sitting on the busy busway and just handing out wads of tracts to the bus workers saying, take and share. And they would just do the work for you. They would pass it around to all the people on the bus. Some Western literature, let's all read. And these tracts, by the thousand, had made their way up the arterial line through gates we could never go, in distances we could never travel, to the far reaches of the place where they were calling the pastor, please send somebody. How can we learn more about this Jesus the Christ? There's an even better one. Back before we were allowed into Burma, this was before my days here, the pastors, just a few of them, just a very small team when Hope Church was only a few dozen people. 2009, Burma still a closed country. No missionaries allowed in, no Christian influence, which was fine because our missionaries had gone to Thailand. But through a little secret, you could get to the gate where you could make a easy little passover, if you knew the right words to say, through the passport office into Burma. And so they did, and they were there, and they knew the dangers of being caught with Christian literature in Burma at that time. And so they were very careful with who they handed it out to. It was very discreet in this very busy marketplace in Asia, and they were handing them out discreetly, and one little girl came and took one. And they, why not? She can have one. Comes back a couple of minutes later as they're carefully walking around, and she wants another one. Now, this is always risky, because this is how we got caught in our recent mission trip. People come and ask one, go and give it to a police officer, come and grab another one, go give it to another police officer and report on you. Well, they had boldness and faith, and they gave the girl another one. She'd come back a couple of seconds later, ask for another one. They gave her a handful. They would watch her. She would run around, find people, hand it to them, tell them to read it, and come back and grab another one. There was no police looking at her. There was no police involved with it. So this was handy. They went and sat down at a cafe, started sipping their little tourist lattes, while this girl, unpaid, by the way, very unethical, this young girl, started doing all the missionary work for them and brought a team of kids. It's like all of her friends, come and help me with this. Well, I don't know what they were saying. They don't know what she was saying. They didn't speak the same language, but she got this army of little kids. And the police were keeping an eye on these missionary guys, passing by every now and then, taking them. They didn't think to look at the little girl. They didn't think to look at the 10 or 12 little kids that she had recruited. And here they sat, sipping their coffee while the gospel was going out with hundreds of tracts to the village area. Now, eventually they got caught out. Eventually, one of the kids gave the tract to a police officer, wishing the best for his soul, no doubt, and the police came over to the gentleman and they had to jump up, run out, and narrowly escape through the little bridge passport office that they almost didn't make it out. We thank God that they did, although persecution is always good for the church. But another instance of how God uses marvelous, strange, peculiar providences for the sake of his church to achieve, this is our first one, to achieve what we cannot plan.